Sing to you, sing to the fire, sing to you, let our hearts rise higher. Sing to you, sing to the earth, sing to you, oh my river. Sing to you, sing to the air, sing to you, let my song be prayer. I sing to you, sing to the water, sing to you, may we find surrender. I sing to you, I sing to the air, I sing to you, oh my river. I sing to you, I sing to the fire, I sing to you, let our hearts rise higher. I sing to you, I sing to the air, I sing to you, let my song be prayer. I sing to you, I sing to the earth, I sing to you, oh my river. I sing to you, I sing to the fire, I sing to you, let our hearts rise higher. I sing to you, I sing to the air, I sing to you, let my song be prayer. Sing to you, I sing to the earth, I sing to you, oh my river. Greetings, greetings, beautiful Into the Wild online festival goers. So I want to welcome you here to Earth Heart. Some of you know is the land where me and Mark run the Earth Heart project. And it's right nestled in the middle of the Forest of Dean, which is a 200,000 acre forest. And we're up a little dirt track. And I don't know if you can hear the bird song, but they're just absolutely going for it at this time of Beltane. And I'm coming to you from inside the EarthLodge, which is like a earth dwelling. It's like a kiva, and it's built into the side of the hill. And just looking and seeing some of you who are coming on, you've been in here. Yeah, hi, yeah, you've been in here. Yeah, so this EarthLodge is a sacred ceremonial space, and it's made of earth above and below. The walls are made of wood and clay and straw, and we have the fire here in the middle, and we run many ceremonies here. And the ceremonies we run are really about thresholds and about death and rebirth. And normally we're gathered in here 20, 30, sometimes 40 people, and we sing and we offer our prayers and we pray and dream through the night together. And I still come into the lodge and spend time in here. And I was just, one night I was in here and I was sort of having a little conversation with the ancestors, as you do. And I was sort of, I'm lonely in here, and I feel like this space could still be offered in service in some way. And so it came back really clearly to say, well, just offer some counsel from the lodge, offer some grief and gratitude from the lodge, and welcome people into the lodge, and we can be with the fire here together. We can be with the drum. We can be with the ancestors. So that's my offering to you. This time of Beltane is such a beautiful time, and it's when life is just fully bursting, and she just wants to like give herself so fully and potently. And of course there's a paradox here because of, you know, what's going on at the moment in our world. And this definitely is not a space for debating and bringing all our different views that are all valid, bringing all our different views about why we are where we are. What I'm offering is a space that says, well, we are here. How do we meet it? This is where we are. How do we meet it? And part of that is, how do we vision a new earth? How do we envision a new world? Because clearly we're on a threshold. We're in a rite of passage. Something is changing on planet Earth. My personal view is that it's the end of the Industrial Revolution and possibly the technological revolution. And we're moving to a more sustained way of being, where our wealth is not measured by how much money we have, but our wealth is measured in what we give and receive to each other and how we support each other. So that's the vision I'm holding, which we're going to come to a little bit more at the end of our ceremony. But really it's a space, a welcome space to be with the feelings of how you feel, of actually how it is right now for you, without explanation, pathologizing, analyzing, having to say why, but just that our hearts ache, our hearts hurt, all of us, as we move through this time. So we offer these ceremonies every week here from the lodge at 7:30 on a Sunday evening, and this week is a little bit different because we've connected up with the Into the Wild online festival. So how it's going to work this week, normally it's a Zoom meeting and it's a closed circle, so we can sit around the fire and we can kind of feel safe to open up. So how we're going to work it this week is, we're going to begin here on Facebook Live like this with the fire, and I'm going to do the first part of the ceremony, call in the ancestors, do a little element ceremony. And then once we move into the part where it's nice to share and hear other people's hearts, we're then going to close down Facebook Live, and Mark, who's on doing technicals, we'll put a link in the comments box so you can jump on the Zoom link. We'll then close down the Facebook Live, and then that will be a closed circle. So there'll be about 5 minutes to do that, and I'll let you know when that's going to happen. If you want to go deeper and actually have a held space with me and a circle of people to share, yeah, maybe more vulnerably what's in our hearts that might not feel so straightforward on a Facebook Live. I spend much time in this lodge. She's carried me through my own thresholds, many thresholds, but more recently my menopause threshold, where I got some very clear messages about not apologizing anymore for speaking truth, for seeing how I can more deeply be in service to the great turning, and getting out of the way of myself a little bit. I want to begin by offering you a poem which was written by a woman called Aoife, and some of you may have seen it. It's been going around on Facebook. It's such a beautiful poem, and she wrote it just as it was announced that the UK was going to go into lockdown, or into rite of passage, and inner vision quest, as I like to call it. And it's really beautiful. So I want to begin there, just to kind of open our space together. It's called Whispers. Come, beloved, I hear her whisper when I finally cry. Look out of the window towards the wonder of magpies and wood pigeons, dancing and resting in your trees, and the crows whirling despite the fog and rain. All the birds gathering twigs, following the pulse of the impending spring, old as time. But what is my work now at these times, I say? Ah, she says, let go of the frantic planning and thinking. You will soon adapt quickly enough to the new landscape, but not before you let your fists relax. Let them open. Let your palms be upturned towards the wide sky, open to the new design that will settle there in time. It cannot be forced, but I promise it will fall like snowflakes into your palms, a new pattern of ideas and purpose, and a deep knowing of your own unique medicine for you to share. But what about the leaden fear in my chest, I say? Dear one, she says, please stop and rest, at least for a while, and let your fear of isolation be what it is, fear, no more, no less. And know this is not the deepest truth, not yours, not anyone's, for you are held always in the web of life. And all this is still here, your pulse, your breath, the rushing of your blood, and gravity supporting you, holding you. But what about the loneliness, I say? Come, she says, soften into that tender place underneath your breastbone and lean back. Lean against a cushion, lean into the ground, mostly lean into grace. And into the helpers invisible to the eyes, those from distant realms who are waiting for your invitation to come closer, to support you, to wrap you in their warmth. Feel the long line of your ancestors at your back, the stream of warmth and light flowing towards you. Ah, but what about the lonely nights? Beloved, she says, just hear the terrors out. Let them have their voice, but don't let them swallow you. Grieve and wail and stomp if you must. Do what you need to do, but then turn your back and step away. And let them be, for terror is only that. A shadow mirage of fear-mongering, not a truth sayer. Beloved, she says, walk and dance, open your windows and breathe, sing across the streets, and reach out to those who welcome both your shine and your fears, whom can sit with you in the dark and lift your spirit, those who are as naked as you are. Hold and let yourself be held more deeply than ever, if not in embrace, but still enveloped in words and looks and smiles. Fall into your own depth, the core and center of your being. Reach out wide and weave yourself into the fabric of life, and feel yourself a unique part of the weaving. Know yourself well, belonging right here, right now. Thank you, Ava Weaver. I think she has a Facebook page if you'd like to go and read that again. Thank you, Ava. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little ceremony to call in the elements and earth, air, fire and water, and then we're going to sing a song to call in our ceremony. And the ceremony that I'm offering this evening is it's like a council, so we're speaking from the heart and listening from the heart and being with the heart. And whenever we open up to grief, whenever we offer work around grief, it's always held within the container, within the context of gratitude, because we only grieve for what we love. So often in our culture, you know, we say, oh, what's the point in grieving? Let's just look at the positive. Let's not get all negative. But actually, grief opens our heart. It just absolutely breaks our heart open in a beautiful way, because we only grieve for what we love. We don't grieve for what we feel indifferent about. So our grief is evidence of our love. And by honoring our grief, we can return ourselves to love. And of course it hurts, because loss hurts. But in that willingness to be with the loss new life can happen. Winter knows this. Winter knows, spring knows that it can't happen unless winter happens. The seed is in the ground. So it's like Jennifer Wellwood talks about it in her poem, you know, that we act so shocked when we experience loss. We act so betrayed, as though it was sort of, it wasn't meant to happen. And we're a bit surprised. But actually, the moment we came into this life, we knew, we made a contract with the mystery to experience grief, because, as Francis Weller so beautifully puts, everything we love, we will lose. And ultimately that might end with our own life. Everything we love, we will lose. So it's quite something to let ourselves love in the full knowledge that we know that whatever it is we love, we risk the loss of that thing. And so many of us, understandably, have said, I can't open my heart again. I just don't want to. It's too painful. But there's a richness, our world right now, the deadness in our world is because there's so much in our hearts that is wanting to come forwards. We so want to bring our gifts. Look how many of us here on this festival are bringing our gifts from our love, not for money, but from our love. I believe our deepest longing is to contribute, is to give our gifts. And if we took money out of the equation, I believe that we would all be doing so much more in terms of bringing our gifts. And if we could find ways of living in the gift economy so that services are no longer an exchange of money, but actually just an exchange of giving and receiving of energy. And it's kind of skip the middleman, really, which is money. So, of course, there's steps to get there, but just holding like the widest, biggest vision. And so often we don't let ourselves do that because we go, oh yeah, but I can see like 50 obstacles in the way. So what's the point? But dreaming and visioning is important. Dreaming and visioning is important when the seed is in the ground, that tiny oak seed. It knows and it dreams and visions of itself as a fully grown oak. It doesn't go, well, what's the point? Because I can't see how I'm ever going to get to be an oak. It just trusts. It knows that all it has to do at that time of winter is dream. Dream into its full potential. So this time where we, there's an invitation to go in. There's an invitation to go in and really align ourselves as much as we can with love. And I know so many of us are doing that. Whether we're out there on the front line, whether we're the people really doing, you know, those essential jobs that so many of us don't want to do, whether we're part of that or whether we're stuck inside feeling lonely, isolated and bored. Either way, it's this gateway to live from our hearts, which has been, you know, in a collective sense, missing on planet Earth for so long. And one of the ways that I'm passionate about doing that, which so much of the work is embedded in, is working with nature, working with the elements. We are nature, and how can we embed ourselves back into the web of life? So whenever we do ceremony in here, we always begin in this way that we're going to do now. I've adapted it a little bit, to call in the elements, to call in the ancestors. And at the end of the ceremony, if you choose to join us on the Zoom call, we're going to call in the ancestors from behind for our grief, and then going afterwards, when we come back to gratitude, we're going to call forth the ancestors from the future and 7 generations. I'm going to invite them to look back and see as though, like, as we have made it through this great turning, and to they're going to tell us about the world that now exists for them and their gratitude to us for all that we did. One of the reasons that we don't like or we have an aversion to grief in our culture is because generally we feel like we have to do it alone. That grief, we've been taught that grief is something that you do privately, it's something to be ashamed of. And when we're on our own, grief so often turns into depression, despair, hopelessness, numbness, and those kind of things. When we are held by grief, so much more is possible. It's almost like if we were all here together in circle, the circle becomes like the banks of a river. And one person at a time steps into the river, and the river is our grief. We become the grief, and we let ourselves flow in the river, and we're held by the banks. And that's a very different experience to trying to be our banks and our river all at the same time. And being witnessed in our grief is so important. It's so important. We hide our heads and faces away in the shame of our grief, but our grief is beautiful. Grief is feral. Grief isn't a sort of Jane Austen white lacy hanky under the eye. Grief is wild, feral, alive, raw, embodied. You know, it's just dirt under the fingernails, scratching at the earth, screaming at the sky, tears, sweat, snot, everything alive in our bodies. It's really, really alive. So I'd like to invite you to close your eyes as we begin calling in the elements. Closing your eyes and bringing your awareness to your breath. We're going to do a very simple breathing meditation for a couple of minutes to honor the element of air. And as we do that, I'm going to make some prayers to air. And as you breathe in, you're going to have the intention to breathe in the mystery through air, through our breath. The omnipresent mystery, spirit, God, whatever word we want to use for that. Love, the great big, big love. And just breathing it in, letting it fill our hearts until we're so full. And then we're going to hold our breath at the top of the in-breath. And as we breathe out, we're just going to offer our breath as a way to offer the mystery back into life. So we just meet the mystery through our breath. Breathing in and holding. Letting yourself just feel that space between the in-breath and the out-breath where time expands. Dissolving into the mystery. And then breathing out, offering your breath as a gift back to the mystery. As a gift back to love. And breathing in again, all the way in, letting your heart and your lungs fill with this beautiful gift of air. Breathing all the way in, and then holding. And breathing out and just offering your out breath as a gift to life. So just invite you to keep doing that breath while I just make our prayers to air. So we pray to you, air. We call you forth. We call you here. We call you to be in our voice, to be in our song. And we give thanks to you. We give thanks for this breath, for your air, for without you our life would end within minutes. We give thanks that every breath we breathe is an opportunity for a new moment, a new consciousness, a new thinking, a new expanding our mind beyond our limiting fears, our limiting beliefs, that we can vision a new earth, a new world of equality, of love, of generosity, of reciprocity. We give thanks and we offer our prayers to you that you keep bringing yourself, that we might find the truth that wants to be spoken in our hearts. and placing one hand on your heart and one hand, if you're on the floor, touching earth. If not, just reaching your hand down to be as close as you can. And calling in the element of earth to be here with us this evening at this time of Beltane, where your soil is rich and fertile and is bursting with life, bringing all the food for us to eat in the harvest later, all the beautiful flowers and fresh growth. And we offer our prayers to all of the natural world, to all the animals and the creatures, both big and small, to the trees, the rocks, the crystals, to the stars, the planets, to the soil, to all of this beautiful web of life. And we ask you, we pray to you that you help us to guide us back to our humility, to remember you as sacred, to remember all life as sacred, that we have forgotten this way. We have become arrogant. We have become dominant. We use you as our slave in service to our glory. And we ask that we might remember our place in this web of life, to find our gentleness, to remember all life as sacred, all life as equal. And I call forth the ancestors from behind, the line of human ancestors going back and back and back into deep time, to the ones who remembered how to walk lightly on this earth, who remembered, who only knew the way of living cyclically, only knew the way of life being sacred, that were in tune with the rhythms and the cycles and the seasons of the year, that understood that nature is an expression of the mystery, letting ourselves feel their hand on our backs, and the ancestors of the non-human world going even further back, the crystals, the stars, the planets, the fossilized forests, and these ancient human ancestors feeling their hand on our back, whispering in our ear, we're with you as you take this step, in humanity, this threshold of possibility. What we do now is so important. What we do now sets the path from what is to come. What happens at the beginning of a cycle affects how that cycle plays out. What we do now matters. We thank you and we offer our prayers that you help us to remember you in every moment, and that we see it in the ant on the ground, in the sun's beam through the leaf, in the water, in the humbleness of life, in a daisy. And we give our thanks to you. We welcome. And the element of fire. And we're calling in the element of fire. And if you have a candle, if you're lucky enough to have a candle anywhere near you, then placing your hands over the candle. If you can see the sun or the direction of the sun, you can hold your palms up to the sun. If you cannot see the sun where you are, let yourself tune in to the molten fire at the center of the earth. And we ask you, fire, we offer our prayers to you, that you might burn away all our bullshit, all our crap, all our illusion, burn away all that we don't need, so we're left with the pureness of what we need, of the simplicity of what we need to live from our hearts. That you help us to find the courage to speak truth, the courage to stand up for what we believe in, the courage to speak from love, the courage to speak in a language that unites us and not divides us, that we can listen to each other in our disagreement and our different views and look for what unites us, for the longing in our hearts, that passionate, fierce, alive longing in our hearts for a world we all want to be a part of, to love each other, to embrace and welcome all. And I have here my ash pouch. She's very special, had her a long time. And I've taken her to all the fires and ceremonies I've ever, circles that I've sat around where there's been a fire and ceremony. And at the end of the ceremony, I ask the fire for a little ash. As long as I get permission, she says yes. And this ash that I'm offering to the fire now is ash that is gathered from many, many fires and many, many circles and many, many ceremonies. And it's a way that I can feel my connection with you, even though you're not physically in your body here. It's a way that we can connect with all the circles that are happening right now across our lands, all the fires of people who are praying and doing amazing work in this time of the Great Turning. I offer this ash to you that we might feel our interconnectedness. And finally, water. We come to water. If you're lucky enough to have some water just where you are, that's beautiful, just pick it up. If not, just imagine you're holding water in the palms of your hands. This water I have is spring water from the local spring just near here. And I ask water, I offer our prayers to water, that you might help us to remember what your teachings are about, teaching us the way of intuition, the way of our feeling nature, the path of least resistance, the way of surrender, the way of softening. Water, as it takes the path of least resistance, has the power to carve through the hardest of rock and stone. And the teachings here for us to let go, to surrender, to step into the mystery through the flow of water. And we ask you, water, on this night, on this evening, please help us with our grief. Help us with your memory of what it is to grieve and what it is to be held by the banks of the river. And I'm gonna carry my burdens down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna carry my burdens down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay my burdens down. I'm gonna carry my burdens down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna carry my burdens down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay my burdens down. I'm gonna carry my burdens down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna carry my burdens down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay my burdens down. Can you sing with me? Gonna carry my burdens down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna carry my burdens Down by the riverside, I'm gonna lay my burdens down. So, beautiful ones, we are now going to move over to Zoom, and Mark has put the link in the comments, so you should be able to just log straight onto the Zoom. We might, I think there is a limit of 100, so jump on quick if you want to get in. And we'll enter into the ceremony. We're going to begin with gratitude that's in our heart, and then there's going to be space for a few or as many as we can in the time that we've got to just be held by the banks of the river, just to express a moment of grief or something that is sorrow that you're holding in your heart, and to have the experience of that being held by love, held by the banks of the river. So for those of you who aren't coming on, thank you so much for spending time here in the lodge. It's been really beautiful to see you, and hopefully see you again. And every Sunday we have a ceremony here, 7:30 to 9:30, grief and gratitude, and you are really welcome to join. All the information is on the website, which is jewelswingfield.com. Bye bye, beautiful ones. See you in a moment.